5 things you didn't know Rust could do, starting with you can build your own mini programming language in Rust. A DSL or domain-specific language is a small language designed to solve a very specific problem. One common example is HTML, which is used to define elements on a web page. Another is SQL, which is used to build SQL queries. These are examples of standalone DSLs. On the other hand, other DSLs are embedded into general-purpose programming languages like Rust. Rust has a powerful meta-programming feature called macros. Macros also allow you to bring in other DSLs into your Rust code. One simple example of this is you can create a macro called map, which allows you to create hash maps using simple object syntax. At compile time, your macro will turn this custom syntax into valid Rust code, and your program will be able to compile. The second thing Rust can do is run without an operating system. Now, normally, a computer program runs on top of Linux, Windows, or Mac OS, and it makes systems calls for things like acquiring resources and interacting with hardware. But with Rust, you can compile a binary that runs directly on the hardware without an operating system in between. This is known as bare metal programming, and it makes Rust a great fit for firmware, embedded devices, and even writing your own operating systems, which is actually exactly what the team at RedoxOS are doing. The third thing Rust can do is allow you to write APIs that are impossible to misuse. A lot of APIs rely on documentation to make sure they're used correctly. But with Rust, you can encode rules into the type system to enforce that APIs are used correctly. A great example of this is the type state pattern in Rust, which allows you to create an object that could be in different states. And with each state, there are certain things you can do and certain things you can't do. The states can be represented with concrete types or generics. You can then call a method to transition your object from one state to another state, and each state has particular methods that are only available to that state. Now, the type state pattern is available in other languages, but it's actually uniquely well suited for Rust for a few reasons. The first thing is there are no default constructors in Rust. This means you can pick exactly which starting state an object is in. Also, because of Rust's ownership system, when you call a method that transitions states, you can pass in self, which will consume self, the old state, and return the new state, ensuring that the old state cannot be used again. The fourth thing you didn't know Rust could do is allow you to write assembly inline. Rust is one of the few modern languages that allows you to talk to the CPU directly. Through the assembly macro, you can write assembly instructions directly in your Rust code. This is helpful if you have some CPU instructions you want to execute that can't be executed through Rust or C, or when you're writing things like a bootloader, kernel, or bare metal embedded firmware. The fifth thing Rust can do is verify your SQL queries before your program even runs. One of my most favorite Rust libraries is SQLX, and one of the great features of SQLX is it will optionally check your SQL queries at compile time to validate that they're correct before your program ever runs. This is possible because of Rust's powerful macro system. This is especially useful if you're writing new SQL queries by hand or modifying existing SQL queries, and you want to make sure you prevent silly mistakes like misspelling the name of a table. You can also turn this off in CD/CI builds or locally when you don't need the feature or you don't have a live database. Now, if you're interested in Rust and want to learn how to write production-grade Rust code, check out the Rust Live Accelerator. It's our tailored mentorship program where we help developers go beyond YouTube videos, build production-grade Rust systems, and land their first Rust job. You can join the waitlist for our next cohort by heading over to letsgetrusty.com/join or by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. When you join the waitlist, we'll also send you our Rust developer roadmap as a small gift. So tap the link, join the waitlist, and I'll talk to you very soon.